Trans-New Guinea (TNG) is an extensive family of Papuan languages spoken in New Guinea and neighboring islands, perhaps the third largest language family in the world by number of languages. The core of the family is considered to be established, but its boundaries and overall membership are uncertain. The languages are spoken by around 3 million people. There have been three main proposals. History of the proposal. Although Papuan languages for the most part are poorly documented, several of the branches of Trans-New Guinea have been recognized for some time. The Eleman languages were first proposed by S. Ray in 1907, parts of Marand were recognized by Ray and J. H. P. Murray in 1918, and the Rai Coast languages in 1919, again by Ray. The precursor of the Trans-New Guinea family was Stephen Worm's 1960 proposal of an East New Guinea Highlands family. Although broken up by Malcolm Ross in 2005, it united different branches of what became TNG for the first time, linking Engan, Chimbu Waji, Goroka, and Kainantu. Duna and Kalam were added in 1971. Then in 1970 Clemens Voorhoeve and Kenneth McElhanan noted 91 lexical resemblances between the Central and South New Guinea (CSNG) and Finistère Huon families, which they had respectively established a few years earlier. Although they did not work out regular sound correspondences, and so could not distinguish between cognates due to genealogical relationship, cognates due to borrowing, and chance resemblances, their research was taken seriously. They chose the name Trans-New Guinea because this new family was the first to span New Guinea, from the Bomberai Peninsula of western West Irian to the Huon Peninsula of eastern PNG. They also noted possible cognates in other families. Worm would later add to TNG, Worm. East New Guinea Highlands, Binanare in the bird's tail of PNG, and two families that John Zeegragen would later 1971-1975 unite in his 100-language Madanga-Delbert Range family. In 1975 Worm accepted Voorhoeve and McElhanan's suspicions about further connections, as well as Z. Gragan's work, and postulated additional links to, among others, the languages of the island of Timor to the west of New Guinea, Angan, Goilalan, Koyarian, Dagan, Eleman, Whistle Lakes, the erstwhile Dani Cuerva family, and the erstwhile Trans-Fly Bulaka River family, which he had established in 1970, expanding TNG into an enormous language phylum that covered most of the island of New Guinea, as well as Timor and neighboring islands, and included over 500 languages spoken by some 2,300,000 people. However, part of the evidence for this was typological, and Worm stated that he did not expect it to stand up well to scrutiny. Although he based the phylum on characteristic personal pronouns, several of the branches had no pronouns in common with the rest of the family, or even had pronouns related to non-TNG families, but were included because they were grammatically similar to TNG. Other families that had typical TNG pronouns were excluded because they did not resemble other TNG families in their grammatical structure. Because grammatical typology is readily borrowed, many of the Austronesian languages in New Guinea have grammatical structures similar to their Papuan neighbors, for example, and conversely many Papuan languages resemble typical Austronesian languages typologically. Other linguists were skeptical. William A. Foley rejected Worm's and even some of Voorhoeve's results, and broke much of TNG into its constituent parts, several dozen small but clearly valid families, plus a number of apparent isolates. In 2005 Malcolm Ross published a draft proposal re-evaluating Trans-New Guinea, and found what he believed to be overwhelming evidence for a reduced version of the phylum, based solely on lexical resemblances, which retained as much as 85% of Worm's hypothesis, though some of it tentatively. The strongest lexical evidence for any language family is shared morphological paradigms, especially highly irregular or suppletive paradigms with bound morphology, because these are extremely resistant to borrowing. For example, if the only recorded German words were gut, good, and besser, better, that alone would be enough to demonstrate that in all probability German was related to English. However, because of the great morphological complexity of many Papuan languages, and the poor state of documentation of nearly all, in New Guinea this approach is essentially restricted to comparing pronouns. Ross reconstructed pronoun sets for Foley's basic families and compared these reconstructions, rather than using a direct mass comparison of all Papuan languages, attempted to then reconstruct the ancestral pronouns of the Proto-Trans-New Guinea language, such as *ni, we, *gi, you, *I, they, and then compared poorly supported branches directly to this reconstruction. Families required two apparent cognates to be included. However, if any language in a family was a match, the family was considered a match, greatly increasing the likelihood of coincidental resemblances, and because the plural forms are related to the singular forms, a match of one SG and one place, although satisfying Ross's requirement of two matches, is not actually two independent matches, again increasing the likelihood of spurious matches. In addition, Ross counted forms like asteriska as a match to 2sg asterisk ga, so that b, kv, v, b, all counted as matches to asterisk ga. And although n and th occur in Papuan pronouns at twice the level expected by their occurrence in pronouns elsewhere in the world, they do not correlate with each other as they would if they reflected a language family. That is, it is argued that Ross's pronouns do not support the validity of Trans-New Guinea, and do not reveal which families might belong to it. Ross also included in his proposal several better attested families for non-pronominal evidence, despite a lack of pronouns common to other branches of TNG, and he suggested that there may be other families that would have been included if they had been better attested. Several additional families are only tentatively linked to TNG. Note also that because the boundaries of Ross's proposal are based primarily on a single parameter, the pronouns, all internal structure remains tentative. The languages. Most TNG languages are spoken by only a few thousand people, with only 5 Melpa, Enga, Western Dani, Makasi, and Ikari being spoken by more than 100,000. The most populous language outside of mainland New Guinea is Makasai on Timor, with 100,000 speakers throughout the eastern part of the country. The greatest linguistic diversity in Ross's Trans-New Guinea proposal, and therefore perhaps the location of the Proto-Trans-New Guinea homeland, is in the interior highlands of Papua New Guinea, in the central to eastern New Guinea Cordillera where Wurm first posited his East New Guinea Highlands family. Indonesian Papua and the Papuan Peninsula of Papua New Guinea, the bird's tail, have fewer and more widely extended branches of TNG, and were therefore likely settled by TNG speakers after the proto-language broke up. Ross speculates that the TNG family may have spread with the high population densities that resulted from the domestication of taro, settling quickly in the highland valleys along the length of the Cordillera but spreading much more slowly into the malarial lowlands, and not at all into areas such as the Sepik River Valley where the people already had yam agriculture, which thus supported high population densities. Ross suggests that TNG may have arrived at its western limit, the islands near Timor, perhaps 4 to 4.5 thousand years ago, before the expansion of Austronesian into this area. Classification. Wurm, 1975. An updated version of Wurm's 1975 classification can be found at Multitree and in modified form at Ethnologue 15, largely abandoned by Ethnologue 16. Wurm identifies the subdivisions of his Papuan classification as families, on the order of relatedness of the Germanic languages, stocks, on the order of the Indo-European languages, and phyla, on the order of the Afroasiatic languages. Trans-New Guinea is a phylum in this terminology. A language that is not related to any other at a family level or below is called a Trans-New Guinea isolate in this scheme. Foley. As of 2003, William A. Foley accepted the core of TNG. The fact, for example, that a great swath of languages in New Guinea from the Huon Peninsula to the highlands of Irian Jaya mark the object of a transitive verb with a set of verbal prefixes, a first-person singular in n, and second-person singular in a velar stop, is overwhelming evidence that these languages are all genetically related, the likelihood of such a system being borrowed vanishingly small. He considered the relationship between the Finisterre Huon, Eastern Highlands, Kainan-Tugorokan, and Irian Highlands, Dani, Paniai Lakes families, and presumably some other smaller ones, to be established, and said that it is highly likely that the Madang family belongs as well. He considered it possible but not yet demonstrated that the Enga, Chambu, Binanare, Angan, Ok, Ayu, Asmat, perhaps closest to Ok and Ayu, Mek, and the small language families of the Tale of Papua New Guinea, Koiarian, Goilalan, etc., which he maintains have not been shown to be closely related to each other, may belong to TNG as well. Ross, 2005. Ross does not use specialized terms for different levels of classification as Laycock and Worm did. In the list given here, the uncontroversial families that are accepted by Foley and other Papuanists and that are the building blocks of Ross's TNG are printed in boldface. Language isolates are printed in italics. Ross removed about 100 languages from Worm's proposal, and only tentatively retained a few dozen more, but in one instance he added a language, the isolate Porom. Ross did not have sufficient evidence to classify all Papuan groups. In addition, the classification is based on a single feature, shared pronouns, especially 1SG and 2SG, and thus is subject to false positives as well as to missing branches that have undergone significant sound changes, since he does not have the data to establish regular sound correspondences. Trans-New Guinea phylum West Trans-New Guinea linkage? A suspected old dialect continuum. West Bomberai, Timor-Alor Panther, Timor-Alor Panther families 22, West Bomberai family 2, Paniai Lakes, Whistle Lakes family 5, Dani family 13, South Bird's Head, South Doberai family 12, Tanamera, Sumeri, isolate, More isolate, Dem isolate, Uhunduni, Damal, Amunjma, isolate, Mek family 13, Kor Kapori 4, inclusion in TNG tentative. No pronouns can be reconstructed from the available data. Kapori isolate, Kor family 3, Hawazi family 4, inclusion in TNG tentative. No pronouns can be reconstructed from the available data. Since linked to Karkar, which is well attested and not TNG. Kayagar family 3, Kolapam family 3, Morauri isolate, Kiwai Porom 8, TNG identity of pronouns suspect, Kawayan family 7, Porom Kabiri isolate, Marin family 6, Central and South New Guinea 49, reduced part of the original TNG proposal. Not clear if these four families form a single branch of TNG. Borhove argues independently for an Ayu-OK relationship. Asmat Komoro family 11, Ayu Dumat family 8 to 16, Mambam family 2, OK family 20, Oksapman isolate now linked to the OK family, Gogadalasuki family 4, Tirio family 4, Eleman family 7, Inland Gulf family 6, Tarama Kikorian family 4, Teberan family inclusion in TNG tentative 2. Pawaya isolate has proto-TNG vocabulary, but inclusion questionable. Angan family 12. Fasu, West Kutubuan family 1-3 has proto-TNG vocabulary, but inclusion somewhat questionable. East Kutubuan family 2 has proto-TNG vocabulary, but inclusion somewhat questionable. Duna Pagaya family 2, Awin Pa family 2, East Strickland family 6, Bosavi family 8, Kamula isolate, Engan family, 9. Wiru isolate, lexical similarities with Engan. Chimbu-Waji family, 17. Kainantu Goroka, 22, also known as East Highlands, first noticed by Kapale 1948. Goroka family, 14. Kainantu family, 8. Madang, 103. Southern Adelbert Range Cowan. Cowan family, 2. Southern Adelbert Range. Josephstal, 7. Osam, Utarbing, isolate. Wadaginam isolate. Sikan family, 2. Homoakan family, 3. Waning, 5. Painamar isolate. Adan family, 2. Emuan family, 2. Fida isolate. Rai Coast Kalam. Rai Coast family, 31. Kalam family, 4, perhaps part of Rai Coast. Chrysils linkage. Demir Malas, 2. Kakambar, 4. Kumal, 5. Tiber Omosa, 6. Amaman isolate. Numugan Mabuso. Numugan family, 6. Mabuso family, 29. Finisterre Huon, 62, part of the original TNG proposal. Has verbs that are suppletive for the person and number of the object. Finisterre family, 41. Huon family, 21. Goilalan family, 6, inclusion in TNG tentative. Southeast Papuan, bird. S. tail. These families have not been demonstrated to be related to each other, but have in common ya for u plural instead of proto TNG *g. Koyarian family, 7. Qualian family, 3. Manubaran family, 2. Yariban family, 5. Miluan family, 6. Dagan family, 9. Binandarian, 16. Guhu Saman isolate. Binanare family, 15, a recent expansion from the north. In classified Wormian languages. Although Ross based his classification on pronoun systems, many languages in New Guinea are too poorly documented for even this to work. Thus there are several isolates that were placed in TNG by Worm but that cannot be addressed by Ross's classification. A few of them, Komayandarat, Samarokina, and maybe Kanati, have since been assigned to existing branches or X-branches of TNG, whereas others, Masip, Momuna, continue to defy classification. Kanati, Kainantu, Komayandarat, Greater Ayu, Masip, isolate Molof, isolate Momuna family, 2, Samarokina, Kwerba, Tofamna, isolate USKU, isolate reclassified Wormian languages. Ross removed 95 languages from TNG. These are small families with no pronouns in common with TNG languages, but that are typologically similar, perhaps due to long periods of contact with TNG languages. Border and Morwap, Elsang, as an independent border family, 15 languages. Isarawa, Sabari, as a language isolate, though classified as Kwerba by Klaus, Donahue and Ma 2002. Lakes Plain, as an independent Lakes Plain family, 19. Mirasi, as an independent Mirasi family. 4. Nimboran, as an independent Nimboran family. 5. Piawi, as an independent Piawi family. 2. Sanagi, as an independent Sanagi family. 2. Sentani, 4 languages, within an East Bird's Head, Sentani family. Tor and Kwerba, joined as a Tor-Kwerba family. 17. Trans-Fly Bulaka River is broken into 5 groups, 3 remaining tentatively, in TNG, Kawayan, Morauri, Tirio, plus the independent South Central Papuan and Eastern Trans-Fly families. 22 and 4 languages. Usher 2018. Timothy Usher has reconstructed Lowell-level constituents of Trans-New Guinea to verify, through the establishment of regular sound changes, which purported members truly belong to it, and to determine their subclassification. In many cases Usher has created new names for the member families to reflect their geographic location. Much of his classification is accepted by Glottolog, though his names are not. Glottolog invents its own names. As of 2018, his classification is as follows, including correspondences to the names in earlier classifications. He expects to expand the membership of the family as reconstruction proceeds. Barrow Gulf More North Barrow Gulf equals South Bird's Head, Yabon South Bird's Head equals Nuclear South Bird's Head plus Ananwitan, West Bomberai INCL. Timor Alor Panther, Sumori West Papuan Highlands equals Irian Highlands, Aming Dem Aming, Uhunduni, Dem Balam Valley equals Dani, Paniai Lakes Asmat, Marianne Strait Asmat Kamrau Bay equals Asmat Komoro, Marianne Strait equals Mambam, Cook River, Kolapam Cook River equals Kayagar, Kolapam INCL. Morauri, Central West New Guinea Dagul River, OK Dagul River equals Greater Ayu, INCL. Bayono Abono, Kamula, Elevala River equals Awin Pa plus Kamula, OK Momuna Mek Mek Momina Momuna OK SAP, Oxapman Papuan Plateau equals Bosavi, INCL. Dibiaso, Duna Boguya Fly River, Annam Inland Gulf Lake Murray equals Bozi, Lower Fly River equals Tirio, Marand Yakai equals Marand, Abam Morob, Eastern Highlands equals Kainantu Goroka, Finisterre Huon Kratki Range equals Angan, Papuan Peninsula, Southeast Papuan, Meniao Range equals Dagan, Owen Stanley Range Koyari, Manigalas Plateau equals Koyarian, Humine Uare equals Qualian, Mount Brown equals Manubaran, Cloudy Bay, Musa River Bawaki Cloudy Bay equals Miluan, Musa River equals Yariban. The families from Ross's classification that are not included are Kor, Pauwazi, Engan, Chimbu Waji, Madang, Eleman, Kawayan, Binandurian, Goylalan, and the several Papuan Gulf families. Phonology Proto-Trans-New Guinea is reconstructed with a typical simple Papuan inventory, 5 vowels, i.e. a, o, u, 3 phonations of stops at 3 places, ptk, bd, mn. Andrew Pauly reconstructs the voiced series as prenasalized, mbnd, plus a palatal affricate, d tilde end, the fricative, s, and the approximants, lj with. Syllables are typically, cb, with cvc possible at the ends of words. Many of the languages have word tone. Pronouns. Ross reconstructs the following pronominal paradigm for Trans-New Guinea, with asterisk a tilde asterisk I oblaut for singular tilde non-singular. There is a related but less commonly attested form for we, asterisk nu, as well as a asterisk ya for you, which Ross speculates may have been a polite form. In addition, there were dual suffixes asterisk li and asterisk t, and a plural suffix asterisk Nevada, ien plus a vowel, as well collective number suffixes asterisk pi, dual, and asterisk m, plural, that functioned as inclusive we when used in the first person. Reflexes of the collective suffixes, however, are limited geographically to the central and eastern highlands, and so might not be as old as Proto-Trans-New Guinea. Lexical words, such as asterisk Nieman, Laos, may also be reconstructed. Reflexes of asterisk Nieman, Laos, which attest to an intermediate asterisk Iman in the east, Chimbu, Middle Waji Numan Engan, Enga and Kiwa Lema Finisterre Huon, Kate Im, Selapet Iman Gogadala Mi Kainantu Goroka, Awanu, Terora Numi, 4 Numa, Gend, 2, Nima S. Kiwai Nemo Koyarian, Manajalasi Uma Kolapam, Kimagana and Ryantana Nome Kwale Nomewan Madang, Kalam Yman, Dumpu, Rai Coast, Im, Serva, Adelbert, Iima Mek, Kasarek Ami Morauri Nemek Paniai Lakes, Ikari Yame, Metathesis, Timor Alor Panther, West Panther, H. Ami, Orada Amin, Metathesis, Wiru Nomo Questionable Brachas, Pauwazi, Yafi Yemrc Sentani Mi. See also Indo-Pacific languages. References. Bibliography. External links. Transnuguinea.org, Database of the Languages of New Guinea, by Simon Greenhill. Timothy Usher's New Guinea World Site.